call this June 4th work session to order. Deb, could you do roll call, please?
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Grozen? Mrs. Ludwig?
Here.
Mr. Micko?
Here.
Mr. Naso?
Here. George will be about 15 minutes late. His daughter Celia's preschool graduation's tonight, so he wanted to be there for the beginning of it. He was going to leave, and he'd be here about quarter after to 20 minutes after. So we're going to kind of move around on the agenda a little bit, stall on some of the bigger items until George can get here. So let's stand for the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So next on the agenda are district goals, and we always address our two district goals: student achievement, which is the #1 goal, supported by financial prudence. And tonight, with financial prudence, we're going to address the relocation and demolition of this building and the Zellers move. So we're going to talk about that, but I'm going to delay that a little bit because George has a lot of the key information for that, so I want to make sure he's here. So what I'd like to do is move the recognition portion up so they can be spared the rest of this board meeting, and we can move up the Sarar Elementary School.
Well, thank you, Mr. Naso. I would like to ask Dr. Sally Wierzbicki, principal of Sarar Elementary, to come to the podium and to present the Sarar Elementary School Fox TV 8 Cool School recognition. So, Sally?
All right, well, thank you guys very much. I know many of you voted for us, and we truly appreciate that from the bottom of our hearts. How I found out about it was a kid ran in one day and said, "You'll never believe it. We can be the cool school. Let's do it." And everybody jumped on board. So without her telling us, we would have had no idea. And from that point on, it was a community effort. Our PTA jumped in, our teachers jumped in, and I'm sure you guys got many of my emails. So the support of the community was awesome. They were so excited when they heard they won, and there were certain things that they wanted to share. So I wrote down the things that they wanted to share, and then we were highlighting some of them. So she came in and videotaped for 3 hours for a 3-minute segment. I'm sure you guys, I'm sure many of you guys saw it. They were in awe over the camera, and they enjoyed every single minute of it. So I just want to thank you guys and the community for supporting us and nominating us to get that honor. Some of the cool things that they wanted to say we did is PTA, without them, we would be lost. Our parents play a huge role. They're there every day. They come in to eat lunch with their children. They volunteer within the school and outside of the school. Without them, I don't know where we would be, but they are wonderful. They bring in things like COSI. They host our classroom parties. They do book fairs and movie nights. They put on an ice cream social along with our art teacher who displays a piece of art from every child. You guys saw that on TV. We have a special person's breakfast 2 times out of the year. They do bingo night. They brought in an author. I've never seen so many dog pictures in my life, but the author and illustrator taught them how to draw one of the dogs from Max and Annie. So they were very excited about that. They get to dissect owl pellets. They grow veggies, and you saw the one kid on TV pick the veggie right out of the dirt and start eating it, which I was like, ooh, okay. Or that. They like to dress up like famous Americans for Famous American Day in 2nd grade. The PTA hosts one in-school field trip for every grade level. So if somebody from the community comes out and presents something new to learn to them, which is really great. They said that the teachers make learning fun, and the thing that they like the most is everybody's included. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter what you contribute to the school, every single person is included. Today, the last day of school you would think would be so happy and kids would be running out of school screaming. Well, it was the exact opposite today. I walked past the kindergarten room and I heard sobs coming out of there, and I thought, what is going on? This is the last day of school, you should be happy. They left crying and sobbing because they weren't going to be there for the summer. So you know what great teachers that is if your child is crying and sobbing on the very last day of school when most kids are excited and happy and can't wait to get out. The teachers, the parents, the staff, they make my job very easy. I love coming to work every day, and they put a smile on my face. So without them, we wouldn't have been nominated the cool school, and without you guys and your help, we wouldn't have been nominated. So we really thank you all.
Thank you.
We've been to too many of these to know, huh?
Yeah.
Every student
guy.
fan. Great job.
Make
Thank
the
you.
rounds.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Big difference. Oh, we'll put it next slide.
I'd like to thank Sally and the staff and the teachers at Sarrar Elementary. It's nice to get these designations. We've had a number of schools in Strongsville that have been designated as a cool school, but what truly means the most is what happens at Sarrar on a daily basis. And as I echo what Sally said, I was there this afternoon, and every day I'm there. It's just a wonderful school. It's a wonderful atmosphere to be, and our kids are well served. In addition to the recognition on a daily basis. So congratulations, Sally, to you and your staff and teachers and your parents. Job well done, so congratulations.
I thought one of the cool things about that presentation in the morning was when the three students who got to participate in the quiz that they have in the morning, and the question was, which of they put up 4 books, and it was like, which one wasn't written by Dr. Seuss? And the one was The Giving Tree, I believe, was the example that wasn't. But not only did our students know that it wasn't The Giving Tree, wasn't by Dr. Seuss, but they knew the correct author as well, which I thought was incredible. And their staff was like, whoa, holy mackerel. She knew, yeah, they were in shock. When remember Wayne Dawson was kind of stunned when she said, and this is the author. So I thought that was pretty amazing.
Thank you.
So nice job. All right, well, from there, we can move to, wanted to do the, let's go to, do we have any public comment? None? All right, we'll get that done with. Let's go to, and I know Mr. Lobb's not gonna be here tonight, right?
Correct.
So that was on the agenda, discussion item 7A1. He's had to postpone due to a personal issue, so we had to postpone that. I know one of the reasons he was coming was that, to thank all the members of the bond committee and the facilities development committee and all the work and labor and the hard work that they put in, but I'll leave that for them. I know that's what they want to do and go over that. So why don't we go to the superintendent's report, and we'll start with that, and as soon as George comes here, we'll go back to
Great.
the stop.
Well, thank you, Mr. Nate. So tonight, what I would like to share with you is a staffing update. We've started updating and started our staffing plan for the 15-16 school year, usually about February or March time. And we've got a few positions left to hire, but we're getting pretty close. And what I've provided for the board is some updated information. So if we start with the blue sheet first, we'll go through some of the items that have been provided. We look at enrollment figures about on a weekly basis now. And right now, in our preschool through 6th grade, we're looking at about 2,000, not about, we are looking at exactly 2,530 students. That changes on a daily basis, especially with our primary grades. We have kindergarten registrations on a weekly basis. Especially kindergarten and 1st grade, we see a lot of movement in those numbers. But as you can see, we continue, for next year, 1st grade is looking at 293 students. And our kindergarten numbers, although we've increased our full-day kindergarten participation, right now we have 249 kindergartners. So our numbers of our youngest students entering the district continue to decline. We'll probably see 25 to 30 more kindergartners by the time the first day of school starts. But again, when you look at our 6th grade class next year is 465 students. We're bringing in 249 kindergartners. That continues to demonstrate why we're closing Zellers, closing Drake, and consolidating some other buildings. At the middle school next year, we're projected to have 866 kids. And at the high school, we will have 1,991 students. And Mr. Tomino's here tonight. And Mr. Tomino, I can't remember when we've had below 2,000 students at the high school. So that gives our total district enrollment to 5,387 students right now. If you look at this year, we're a little over 5,600 students. So again, we're losing about 300 students a year due to graduating large classes and bringing in smaller classes.
Mr. Ryba, if I
Yes.
might interject on semantics, it's not that we're losing. I think from our facilities utilization that the birth rates are just not what they were 10 years ago. So it's not like we've had 400 students go elsewhere. They just haven't been born in the numbers that they were 10 years ago.
Correct. The number of students that are going to private or parochial or
That's about the
e-schools
same.
has been consistent. We're not seeing any jumps in it. When I refer to losing students, I'm just talking about the difference between graduating class and incoming kindergartners.
Yeah. Good point, though, Deb. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Deb. Looking throughout the sheet, our class sizes, we are trying as a district to keep class sizes in kindergarten through third grade at that 25 range. And fourth through sixth grade, we look at a cap of 30 students. We still, I know there were concerns when we looked at closing Zellers that class sizes would significantly increase. As you look throughout the buildings, that is not the case. We are still seeing the low to mid 20s. There are some larger class sizes in there, but we are pretty consistent with where we've been in the previous years. You know, we've had a lot of discussion over the years in our district about equity between the buildings. You know, some buildings have large class sizes, some buildings have smaller class sizes. We will have one more year of that. Sarrar and Whitney are our smallest schools. Sarrar is going to be right around 300 students next year, and Whitney is projected to have a little less than 300 students next year. But when we close Drake at the end of the 15-16 school year, the majority of our students will go to those buildings and make it more equitable, and there's room in those buildings as well. And then the rest of it just kind of gives the board an update as to where we're at with staffing levels, some positions that we have left to finalize as we go throughout the hiring season. Are there any questions or comments on this document?
Just one comment. It's nice to see that the classroom sizes didn't increase with the closing of
Yeah.
Zellers. That was a concern, and it looks like it's not.
Exactly, and
Perfect.
just as an update, in terms of staffing, we have, as we've mentioned before, we're redesigning our gifted services across the district to ensure all of our students that are identified as gifted are being served. And we have already started meetings with our third grade teachers, which will start next school year. So we will have 2 teachers serving our students in all of our elementary buildings in third grade next year, as well as the magnet program that will continue on for the students that are currently in the program. The other sheet, the green sheet that I gave you as a reference, just takes a look at the financial components of staffing. Every year, obviously we have very experienced staff that retire, and we bring in staff that have less costs associated with due to less experience. And if you look at the total picture, there is still some fluctuation because we have some positions to fill. But as of right now, the overall savings to the district between the 14-15 school year and 15-16 school year is right now around $2 million savings in salary and in benefits in the gross. When you take a look at adding in our classified staff and our certified staff, they get steps each year depending on where they're at. There were some cost of living increases. That still is a savings to the district overall, comparing fiscal year 15 to 16 of about $1.2 million. And the great news about that is we did not have to do a reduction in force for any of our certified staff. This is through just attrition, retirements, and additional class sizes due to the Zellers closing. As you know from our last board meeting, we did have to reduce 3 of our OPSI staff, and hopefully will get employed before the end of the year. But in terms of our overall budget and our salary and benefits cost, we will see a significant reduction in that from FY15 to FY16.
And Mr. Nason,
Yep.
Mr. Riva had given me those numbers, and they were figured into the forecast for next year, that salaries do go down next year because of all of those changes.
Do you know what that number was, the net? Was it?
No, because figuring steps and all that, I don't
Yeah,
have it off the
okay.
top of my head. It's
Okay.
on the Department of Ed website if you want to go look it up.
All right, I'll do that.
But if you look throughout the document, you will see there's a reduction in costs for our certified staff. There's a reductions in costs due to reductions to the administrative staff, as well as reductions in costs for our classified staff. So all of our employee groups, there have been some reductions in cost savings across the board.
Yep. And all the teachers, there were no rifts related to the closing of Zellers because we accomplished that all through,
Not for the teachers.
not for the teachers.
For
Okay,
our
the
OPSI staff, there were 3.
Okay, got it, okay.
Some reduction in hours and 2 full-time reductions. But when you look at closing a building and that number of staff that you need to move, although I wish we could have every one of our staff members here next year, one of them actually, I do recall, one of them actually last week got a job in a new job, so we're down to 2. But for closing a building, that is impressive that we were able to do that with that limited impact on our employees.
Yep, with maintaining and not making jobs. Every job was an
Correct.
opening related to a retirement that we were able to fill. So it wasn't
Correct.
like we made jobs or found jobs. We reduced all the heads we reduced the cost that we said we were going to reduce, and then we were able to place those people in other positions
Correct.
that were open.
Yep.
Correct.
So I will
Okay.
keep the board updated throughout the summer as we finalize staffing, and as exciting as it is to fill in the grid and see that we just have a few positions left, we all know that July and August will bring some more openings as people move or get married or resignations come in. So we will continue to have a busy summer, but we're getting close.
Okay.
And that concludes what I wanted to share with the board in terms of a staffing overview.
Okay. Do you want to continue into HR while we're waiting on George? You want to do D1, start there? I know it's getting confusing where we're at, but we'll,
Sure. So if we go to the addendum under D1, at this time, I'm thrilled to bring Nicole Hackman to the podium, and I'll meet her over there to share with her, share with everybody a recommendation for new assistant principal at Strongsville High School. So as everyone may recall, Steve Dietrich, former assistant principal at the high school, he still has a few more weeks left at the high school, but he's going to be moving down to Center Middle School to be our principal there, so we had an opening to fill. And as I've shared many times, these are anxiety-ridden openings because you want to get the best for our kids, you want to get the best for our parents and our community. And I'm going to tell you, we found the best. I am thrilled to have Nicole. I spent an hour with Nicole, and I was sold. You know, when I talked to Mark afterwards, his first words were, "What did you think of her?" And I said, she's just phenomenal. You know, she has that type of personality and that type of passion for education and that type of energy that's going to be contagious. And I think, you know, whenever we look at bringing somebody new into our district, the question we always look at is, what value are you going to bring? What spark are you going to bring? How are you going to help move the needle forward and make us a better district because of your presence here? And she's going to do just that. She lives in Strongsville. She has kids in our district, actually at the high school, both of them at the high school next year, right? I'm sure they're excited. Mom's going to be.
You're the freshman.
Yeah, Mom's going to be one of their assistant principals, so that may be some awkward conversations at home. But we're thrilled to have her here. She is a career educator at the high school level. She began her career at Solon High School. And was there for approximately 10 years as an English speech teacher. Job transfers moved her and her family to Winchester, Virginia, where she was there for 5 years? 4 years at John Hadley High School. And for the last 4 to 5 years, she's been back in Ohio at the Lorain County JVS, again as an English teacher. And if you look at her credentials, you look at her resume, she's not just been an English teacher, she's been a leader in her department and a leader in her building, and now she'll be a leader in our district. So I'd like to recommend to you our next assistant principal of Strongsville High School, Nicole Hackman.
I want to thank you very much for this opportunity. When my family moved back to Ohio from Virginia, we chose to move back to my hometown, Strongsville. I graduated from Strongsville High School. I'm excited to be back. And one of the reasons we selected to move back to Strongsville was largely because of the schools, because of the opportunities it would afford our sons. So I'm really excited to be part of the tradition of excellence in Strongsville and have an opportunity to serve the community that way. Thank you.
In addition to Nicole, we have finalized some of our summer hiring that you can see there. And there's a series of teachers at the high school level and at Chapman that we are recommending for appointments for certificated staff. And that is continued on the back of the addendum. And then we are also recommending an appointment of a certificated long-term substitute as an elementary instrumental music teacher. So that concludes my report for Human Resources, unless there's any questions. Look at that. That is timing right there,
That is
Mr.
timing.
Grosjean.
You brought us stickers.
Yes. Apologize for the delay, everybody. I just watched my little 5-year-old graduate from PK. She's going to be a big kindergartner at Kinsner next year, so I apologize for the delay.
Oh, no problem at all. All right, well, with that, why don't we go back to, and then we'll continue in order, pick up everything. We'll go back to district goals, financial prudence. On there, 2 weeks ago, we got a report from the Facilities Development Committee that made certain recommendations on the closing of this building and the demo of this building, the closing of the pupil service building, demoing that, combining all of those resources into the Zellers building, which will be vacated when it closes as of today. My daughter went back, she graduated, she's in 7th grade, so her and some of her friends who went to Zellers from Albion made the trek back to Zellers today to give all their teachers hugs, and being girls, they all cried. And you gotta love them.
Oh, you're in trouble now.
I know. But they loved Zellers. She had a tremendous year at Albion, and so they went back there. So I think it's important that we said we'd come back and we'd vote, and I think everybody did their homework. And I know Richard was furiously going through data over the last couple of days or weeks. I assume everyone else did as well. I know George got a lot of calls. So I think with that, let's take a motion to accept, or let's make a motion so that we can vote, and in between the motions, then we'll have discussion. And so would someone like to make a motion? George?
I'd like to make the motion.
George will make the first motion.
Second.
Second by, first by George, second by Duke, and now we can open it up for discussion. We want to just move right down. Jane, do you have any comments on?
Nope, nothing to
You're
say.
good? Richard?
Thank you, Carl. I just want to make sure we say out loud in the record that not only are we accepting the recommendation to repurpose Zellers, but we're also, be it further resolved that the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent and his administrative team to make all applicable plans and arrangements for the demolition and abatement of the Board of Education building located at 13200 Pearl Road, Strongsville, Ohio, and the Strongsville Services Building located at 15650 Pearl Road, Strongsville, Ohio, funded through an allocation of $350,000 of bond funds. The demolition and abatement project will be overseen and executed by our current construction team. Contract language for this work will be arranged at a future time. And I just want to comment, we all had conversations going over the facts. I want to thank publicly the members of the Facilities Development Committee. I spoke at length to Joe Mossbarger and Ken Evans. My big concern is that we make sure that we stay within budget, and I know it's the same concern we all share. I look at this Zellers project real similar to the way the city looked at the library project. It's not necessarily what you would design if you were going to design an administrative building from scratch. But at the same time, the building's there, we have Zellers, and it is more cost effective to repurpose Zellers than it is to build a brand new building. So I'm in favor of doing that because it is cost effective, and we'll live with the parts that aren't ideal. But what's critical for me is that we maintain that budget and that we continue to come back as a board at each step along the way, similar to what we're doing with the middle school project, the high school project, and all our bond dollars. And we have to make sure that we stay within that budget. It would be it would be unconscionable. It would be impossible to bear for us to go over that budget. I know George will comment, we've already done the things, or we're already planning to do the things that we've committed to. The middle school will be built, the high school will be renovated, and because of the work that we're doing, we're getting more done than we were originally promised. And so I look at this repurposing as the same thing. But it's a admin building's a very old building, and we don't know what surprises we may encounter. And if we do encounter those surprises, we'll come back and make sure that we can accomplish this within that budget. And that's why, for me, it's important that we have that delineation of the budget of that $350,000. And if matters or circumstances change, we will come back to it. But I don't want to be in a position of having too much to do and not enough money to do it, because the community expects more of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. George?
Yeah, I was just making some notes. I think it's important for the public to understand where this money's coming from. When we were granted, thankfully, from the community, an $80 million bond fund, we said that we were going to provide A, B, C, and D. We were going to provide a middle school, a high school, critical needs to elementary buildings. And I give the massive amount of credit to GPD, our architectural firm, Hammond Construction, our construction manager. But when we created these bid packages, every building has a certain steel, concrete, electrical, plumbing, HVAC. We not only sent them out for bids, but we also then took certain packages and divided them up again, or consolidated them. And Hammond did a wonderful job at this. We were able to save millions. Millions. And then we put that money back into the brick and mortar of these buildings. And I'll give you an example. Originally, we were just going to repave the loop road at the high school from Lund to Lund. Now, if you've ever been there, and I know Duke has made some comments before, there are potholes big enough my 5-year-old can stand in. With the savings, we are now able to literally repair that road. Remember, we've got a 30-year mortgage on this bond. What we do today has to last for 30 years. So the $350,000 is an allocated amount of funds. Our new treasurer is going to make sure that there is a pocket of money, and we're going to stay under budget on time with that amount of money. We also have massive economies of scale. One of the concerns of removing Center Middle School is that the wrecking ball doesn't swing too far and hit this building. There's literally going to be an abatement company coming in, removing the asbestos from that building. They only have a 20-foot walk. For those that don't know this building that well, above the suspension ceiling is plaster, decorative plaster. It's full of asbestos. Now, don't get me wrong, it's encapsulated, it's sealed, you're not gonna, have problems with it. But every single day, the expense is not the removal of these buildings. The expense is, where do you put the asbestos? Not even the removal of the asbestos, because that labor is what? Is affected by 10% a year in inflationary pressure? It's where do you put that harmful material? So every day the school district waits, this liability, and I mean this liability, this building gets more expensive every day to remove. The next point I'd like to make is, we're only making minor changes to the Zellers building. What happens if our middle school attracts more kids, brings more kids back to public schools than to private schools? Parma made the mistake a decade ago, I believe, something about that. They closed enough elementary buildings, tore them down, and the next thing you know, they had to go back to the taxpayers and say, oops, we made a mistake. We don't have enough room in our elementary buildings. We've got to build a new one. So this way, we're able to retain that option. It's the proper time, it's the proper money. We were very diligent in the decisions, and I'm proud that the board has reviewed it, and of course I'm supportive of it. I'll say it again. You guys are gonna get really sick and tired of me saying this over and over again. Jane, you're smiling already because you know what I'm gonna say. Name another district in the state of Ohio that's gonna build a new middle school, put $30 million into a high school, and remove 7 old buildings that were pure liabilities. Every year they cost more money to maintain. Every year it sucks up the money that Mark Donnelly has to fix and repair those buildings. We can't buy kitchen equipment because we're fixing so many roofs and holes in those roofs. We have 7 old buildings that are gonna be off the books. That's a big deal, and the community should be really proud of themselves for giving us the opportunity and for the work that's been done. So I am in full support.
Duke?
I couldn't tell that from your speech.
Sorry.
But, no, I'd just like to thank the Facilities Development Committee for their
diligent work, and also George and Carl for your involvement on that committee. I attended a couple of meetings, I guess, during their whole time, and I can tell you they were very conscientious about what was best for the community. We need to do this. It's the right time to move forward, and I am in favor.
Thank you. I'll just say that, you know, seeing the presentation, sitting through all the Facilities Development Committee meetings, you know, seeing the hard work that was done, I want to thank the committee for all their hard work. For me, the key word, and Joe Mossberger on our committee said it, he said this is, and he's the facilities manager for Swagelock. So this is what he does. He manages 23 facilities. So we're very fortunate to have a community member with this kind of talent who stepped up to help us, you know, to work through some of these things. The word he used was opportunistic. He said, you know, we've got, it's opportunity that we have economies of scale where we're knocking down Zellers and we could take this building out, which means we're gonna have all kinds of savings than if we came back 5 years later to take this building out. It'll be much cheaper. He said it's opportunistic that we have a school closing, Zellers, and we get to upgrade from this building to that without having to build another building. You know, we get to replace an existing outdated, non-ADA compliant building that's well beyond its economic use. We've talked about it's opportunistic that we're gonna reduce our footprint, like George said. We're gonna take out, instead of 5 buildings, we're gonna take out 7. And every one of those is a liability. It's opportunistic that we're gonna, that we have the money currently to do these demos. And we would have had to knock down Zellers because we made a commitment that we would not leave a building. A mothball in a building doesn't work. It just deteriorates rapidly, like any home you see that goes for auction. They just deteriorate so fast, it's crazy. So it's opportunistic that, you know, that we had this enrollment, and it's gone down, and it looks like it's gonna stay down, and everything shows that enrollment's dropping. But like George said again, and the committee determined, this is our safety valve. If all of a sudden the middle school, the high school starts attracting, I know there's a lot of little kids on my street these days, and so we got that safety valve. You know, we're using bid day savings, so we're playing with the house money to take these buildings out. It's the taxpayers' money, they provided it, but I just wanna say that opportunity, this is about taking an opportunity and turning that opportunity into an economic benefit for our taxpayers and our district. So it makes perfect sense to do this. I'm all in.
Mr. Naso?
Yep. Cameron?
I don't get a vote, but obviously want to share my support for the recommendation. And I echo all the reasons that the board has shared. 2 others that I just would like to add to the list is, whether you're in the public sector or private sector, when you look at your operation and capitalizing on your human capital, it's difficult to do that when you're so separated. When you look at how we're structured with the board office and pupil services, Office of Pupil Services, almost every department has pieces and parts in 2 different locations. And the ability and the opportunity to have all of our administrative staff in one building is going to increase production and make best use of the human resources in our district. So I think that's a huge component that we've got to take a look at it all as well. The last thing that I would say is when the board votes, and should they vote to support this recommendation, I'm very well aware of the sentimental value that the building we're sitting in has for many members in our community. And should this recommendation go through, just as we are going to do with Center Middle School, and we did with Zellers and Allen, and we'll do with Drake, is we are sensitive to that, the attachment and the historical value that this building has to many of our community members, and we'll be working to make sure that we recognize that and respect that, should it be approved to tear this building down.
Thank you.
Yep.
One last comment, if I could, and actually, Jane, you might want to speak of this. The Facilities Development Committee did go to the Strongsville Historical Society. So we've already talked with the Historical Society, and Jane, right, we were going to take certain artifacts, certain items, and we were going to, as a district, present that to the, am I right?
Right. They haven't actually toured, we haven't actually toured this facility. We toured Center to see what might be salvageable from a historic perspective. We have a few of our members that actually attended kindergarten in this very room. So they do have a very sentimental attachment to it, and then taught in this building even, you know. But We do also, Velda Chapman, who Chapman Elementary School is made up, was a painter and lived across the street from our school. And there's a lovely picture she's painted of this building. The prints are on sale at the Historical Society. They're $10. You know, it's a good deal if you want to have a visual memento of this building, should we tear it down. And it's, in fact, I think there's an example of one in the lobby here.
And Dale Finley, one of the previous mayor, he's already started making some phone calls about creating a brick patio or something. We'll be cognizant of that, and there'll be some more updates coming to that. But we understand there's a huge sentimental value to the building. It's just, it's deteriorated so far.
Okay. All right, with that, the one last point is that this project will be managed and overseen by RFC, Roger Riachi, our owner's agent, Hammond Construction, and Mark Donnelly, our administration. So the three of them, and it falls under all the other rules with change orders and anything else to Richard's point, to make sure that if there's anything we need to know, we'll know. With that, let's vote.
Mrs. Ludwig?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes.
Mr. Naso?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Grozen?
Yes.
With that, the motion passes. All right, so we've been through recognition, we've been through public comment, just catching up here, we're into the superintendent's report, we went through staffing, Mr. Lobb won't be here, we have business services, but we can go back to, on the addendum, we have some pupil services. Do you want to?
Yeah, Mr. Naso, we have one item on the addendum under 7C, pupil services. We do have a settlement resolution for your consideration, and Exhibit C is related to that settlement, so we would need a vote to approve that agreement.
I'll read the resolution quickly. These resolutions are of the information is sensitive, and there's not a lot that we read out in public on the names, or because it involves pupils that we're dealing with here, individuals, and so I'll read the resolution. The Board of Education of Strongsville High School, Cuyahoga County, met in a regular work session on June 4th. The following members were present, all of us. Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Duke moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jane. And with that, I don't know if I need to read this whole thing, but whereas concerns have been raised on behalf of a student of the federal and state governing provision of free and appropriate education, whereas the Board of Education believes it's in the best interest of Strongsville City Schools to enter into an expeditious and reasonable solution of that dispute. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Strongsville that the board authorizes the superintendent and treasurer directly and through their designees to take any action necessary to effect a resolution of the terms. Be it further resolved that all formal actions of the Board of Education concerning or relating to the adoption of this resolution were adopted in open meeting of the Board of Education in compliance with laws. We've all had private conversations with Cameron and with John and with Deb to make sure that we're fully appraised of the circumstances, the facts and circumstances of this case. Upon roll call, Deb, could you take roll?
Mr. Grozen?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes.
Mr. Naso?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludwig?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion is adopted. I do believe that in executive session tonight, we'll have some further discussions. Are you still interested in that, Richard, to talk about? Yes? Okay. So there'll be a little further discussion in executive session tonight about that. That brings us to the Business and Service and Technology report. Mr. Donald? Sorry, that's your job. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Naso. Tonight, under Business Services and Technology, we have two items for your consideration. The first item is authorization to enter into a contract for waste removal and recycling services. This is a 3-year contract. The services were bid out by Ohio Schools Council on behalf of the school districts, which we participated in the bid. And the award for Cuyahoga County, they award this by county, and there is an attachment in Exhibit A, is for Republic Services to remove our waste and recycling for the next 3 years. There's not an exact cost per year due to the different volumes of trash, especially with us cleaning out a few buildings this year. We may have a few roll-offs pull up to the buildings, and that adds to the monthly rate for a couple of months or whatever. But roughly, we spend about $75,000 a year in trash removal. The item 2 under business services tonight is an amendment to the contract for GPD, our architectural group, for Strongsville Middle School and High School construction testing services. These testing services, as they go through the construction process to ensure a quality product, they do a lot of testing, excuse me, they do a lot of testing for geotechnical testing to make sure the soil will support the building you're putting it on. They test the concrete, they test the millage of the paint, they test the millage of the vapor barrier they put on the walls. They test the quality of the mortar they use in the joints. Just to make sure all the different products they bring in are quality products and meet minimum state standards, so we get a quality school. It's part of the OSFC requirements. It's in the specs of the documents. Last summer, we went through more testing than we thought we would at the middle school due to the soils conditions and a lot of extra soils work. After going through an exhaustive process with the construction team, they looked ahead and they said, we feel confident that this amount of testing should get us through the entire project. And that amount is an additional $259,000 that's run through the architect contract, because the architect sees the results of the testing and their knowledge of what's required versus what the standard is allows them to make decisions on whether it's acceptable or not quickly. But we do need to have additional testing to ensure the quality product, so there's a resolution, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education approves additional construction testing services through GPD Group at the middle school and high school construction projects in the amount of $259,000 funding from the 004 bond fund.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
George made the first,
Second.
second by Jane, thank you. Now discussion. George?
Again, I want to make sure that the public understands, we're not taking $259,000 out of our yearly budget paycheck or general fund. The money that we're spending is, again, coming from bid day savings. This is the money that when we said, here's the guaranteed maximum amount that would cost us to build these buildings, and that was the amount that was guaranteed by Hammond, because through our process, Dana, who's sitting in the audience, he's personally accountable to build these buildings under budget on time. When we took these packages out to the real world and said, how much is it going to cost for this contractor to pour our concrete, we were able to save not just a couple $100,000, but we were able to save millions. So the difference between what the contractors guaranteed us to build the building and what Hammond Construction guaranteed us to build the building, that gap is what we're using to fund these other items. When we built our new middle school and we started finding different things like gas tanks underground that nobody knew they were there, we had to pull, and Dana, I think you can give me a proper figure, we had to pull how many feet of shale out, stabilize the ground, build it back up to be able to put the print on there? Hundreds of yards. And not that I don't have the most confidence in Hammond Construction, but the reason why testing is done by the architect and not by Hammond is the testing firm works for the architect, which double checks the work that Hammond does. So we have another set of checks and balances on their work, and they're paid by the architect, who we pay, to make sure that we don't have some of the issues 5, 10 years down the road. And one of the interesting things that I learned was they literally check the thickness of the paint on the wall. How would we know if someone gave us 2 coats of paint, or primer and 2 coats of paint? We wouldn't. This company literally goes in and checks the thickness of the paint that they paint on the walls. So we're guaranteeing, trying to guarantee, through documentation, through testing, every single tiny phase of this so that we spend our taxpayers' dollars wisely every single step of the road. So thank you.
Thank you, George. Duke?
Yeah, I think I got this is for the high school and the new middle school, correct?
Both buildings.
Yes, sir.
Those cover
I don't have the
everything.
breakout in front of me, but there was, I honestly can't remember. It seemed like there was more testing at the middle school. But it is both buildings combined. I
Okay.
had information from Derek at the middle school and Jeff at the high school to say, yes, this is the amount.
Through the end of the construction.
Okay, and just, it may be a totally unfair comment, but I still think that this testing should have been included in the original figures and not have to be an add-on like it is now. And the last thing I would say is that I would like to see an amendment or propose an amendment to this resolution to say not to exceed $259,000, which I believe is what Mr. Riachi had also communicated earlier in an email from you, Cameron. there was a not-to-exceed amount of $259,000.
Okay.
And that's what I'd like to see this changed to say, for the middle high school construction projects not to exceed $259,000.
I mean, we can do that. Dana, I honestly don't know how testing works. Is that something we can guarantee, not to exceed?
We can guarantee it as much as value. of
Dan,
that
Dan,
number.
can you go to the podium, please?
The value of that number that we have anticipated spending for the rest of the project covers all the testing that we know has to happen. And a perfect example of what we didn't know what was going to have to happen was when we ran into the unsuitable soils at the middle school. We didn't know that much testing needed to be done. Basically, that's why we need more monies, because we spent quite a bit of money as we backfilled those soils and reconsolidated them to build a new building. So as far as we know, for the testing that we have to do to assure the quality of the building, this will take care of it.
Okay,
If we
so
don't
you-
run into any huge unknowns, we should be in good shape.
So you don't have a problem with my proposed change?
No, I don't have a problem with your proposed change. If we don't run into any unknowns, this will cover everything we need to do based on the documents and what we know.
And-
Okay.
And Dana, we're out of the dirt now at the middle school.
Yes.
So it's a fresh, clean sheet paper building. The
That's
only,
why I'm pretty confident in knowing at the middle school.
but
that
the high school, we built in a little bit extra on the testing, so.
Yeah, we built in
I
a
mean-
little bit extra on testing, because if you uncover something, if you have something on the wall, any adhesive that might have been on there, that you pull a sign off, we test to make sure that it's not asbestos containing or something of that nature, and if it is, we would have to remove it. But the testing, we feel confident that it shouldn't exceed this amount.
Okay.
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 Think that we can make that change? Yep. Okay.
Carl?
Yep.
Yeah, Duke is correct. Roger did indicate it was a not-to-exceed contract. And since the contract is with the architect, we should be fine. But Roger's professional opinion is that the $259,000 is the high end of required testing. Like anything, if things come out well, we will spend less than $259,000 on that testing, and we'll be able to take that excess and drive it back into all of our projects.
That is true.
Okay. I just want to state that I always, and Hammond, you guys are good with this number, obviously it just stood up. I talked to Roger yesterday on the phone, and he was good and understood it, and he's all over it. So I got his approval that he's okay, and we do that on all of these items. Let's take a vote.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes.
Mr. Naso?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludwig?
Yes.
Mr. Grozen?
Yes.
Just one additional comment. The time-lapse webcam we have on our site, I think if you went to that time-lapse and you hit it and you watched it go last summer, you'll see a portion of that where they dug down about 12 feet over, I'd say, a 60-yard area, where they did some serious, you'll see where the money was spent in last summer's testing. But this ensures a quality product for the district, and we'll all be happy that it's there 50 years from now when the building is still in great shape. So thank you very much for your consideration tonight.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark and Mr. Naso. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Cameron. With that, I'm going to step away and go to my daughter's recital tonight. So have a great night. Continue the meeting, Richard, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Carl. So unless I'm incorrect, we're up to timely information. Cameron? No, I
Consent
skipped
calendar.
consent calendar.
Consent calendar.
Action by the Board of Education and adoption of consent calendar at this point of the agenda means that all items appearing in this agenda with asterisks, which items constitute the consent calendar, are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board or the superintendent requests that such items be removed from the consent calendar and voted upon separately. Does anyone need anything removed?
No.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Grozen, second by Mr. Evans. Ms. Herman, can you take the roll?
Mrs. Ludwig?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Grozen?
Yes.
Consent calendar passes unanimously. And now on to number 9, timely information. Mr. Ryba.
Actually, this is, Mr. Miko, it's under board other, so this recommendation needs to come from the board for Deb.
So I will read the language, change in status retirement. Be it resolved that the following leadership personnel resignation be changed to a retirement. Deborah Herman, Treasurer, Strongsville City School District, effective June 30th, 2015. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Ludwig, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Grozen. Any discussion? Deb, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
your retirement, well earned. Would you please take the roll?
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mr. Grozen?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludwig?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. And number 2 is ARA Mark Education Food Services discussion item. At a previous board meeting, we brought in, help me with the name, Duke? Chartwell. I was going to call it Hapwell for some reason. Chartwell to discuss ways to improve our food services. I want to thank all the members of OPSI and our food service personnel who are in attendance today. It's excellent that we have their interest and that we have their input, so thank you for coming, and I'm now going to turn it over to ARA Mark.
Well, thank you, Mr. Miko, and thank you to the board and the administration for giving us a few minutes to talk about Aramark tonight. As a matter of brief introduction, my name is Art Beam, and I'm a district manager with Aramark. I actually live in Strongsville and work throughout the Ohio market. Also with me tonight as a part of our team, we have Steve Hirschenreiter, who is one of our direct associate vice presidents of business development, and Cass Bacozzi is a human resource manager. So the presentation that we're going to go through will be fairly brief because we know we have a basketball game to get to tonight, and we don't want to stay in the way of that. So what we really want to talk about is what Aramark is all about and the things that we're proud of in our mission to deliver experiences that enrich and nourish lives. And what gets us really excited is our impact on kids every day. So a little bit about Aramark to start with. If you're not familiar with Aramark, we are a very large, very well-established, very solid company. And we have more than 270,000 employees across the globe. We work in a variety of different markets and are involved in more than just the K-12 sector, but that's the sector that we're here to talk about tonight. I think one of the things that makes me the most proud about being a team member of Aramark is not the size of the company, but some of the things that we're known for. And probably what we are known for more than anything else is as an ethical, well-respected company to work for. And secondarily, and I think most important to a community like Strongsville, is that we truly engage and truly get involved in the communities in which we live and work. We work locally in the Cleveland area in 2 districts that you may be familiar with, and we have very long-term relationships at Lorraine City Schools and also Kent City Schools. Those are both accounts that we have managed and worked with their food service program for over 20 years. And in both of those communities, we extensively engage in community partnerships in addition to the things that we do to help manage and partner and deliver experiences to our students. So yes, we're a big company. We think globally. I think we truly act locally and truly engage. We will also provide at the end of the presentation some time for you to ask questions. And if you have questions about the human resource piece or how we manage through that with you as a district, we'd be happy to do that. So I'm going to turn it over at this point because there's quite often, there are quite often myths and rumors and things about what outsourcing is all about and what public and private partnerships mean. And Steve's going to talk to you a little bit about that.
Thanks, Art. I appreciate it. And good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. If you noticed, we titled our presentation tonight From Insights to Innovation. And I'm going to take a few minutes just to talk about the insights piece of outsourcing and what we like to call public-private partnerships. And what are they is an important question. They're really about employing an outside expertise like Aramark and, of course, our capital to deliver a service or to deliver a specific service at this point which is food service. You know, though it becomes important to kind of reframe the thought process. You know, we're not really talking about outsourcing here. We're really talking, if I may, about resourcing. And we're talking about making better use of the current resources, the great team that you have, the great facilities, and those types of things through public-private outsourcing or what we call partnerships, and that's to get the job done in a little better fashion on a daily basis. So we like to use the word public-private partnerships and resourcing, not outsourcing, as we start talking about how we come together for these activities. Why do districts do it? Very, very interesting and important that you call others and ask them, like Kent and Lorraine. A lot of time it's about core competencies and focusing on education. Often food and other areas aren't a core competency of a school district. But as you can see also, it's about the resource network and the resources that we as an Aramark bring to the table, the innovation and the expertise. But also, and we all know that the economic times have been difficult, it's about financials too. It's about infusion of investment. It's about guaranteeing returns or at least outcomes for the food service program. Sorry about that. It's about having systems in place, accountability, innovation, and all those types of things that we can bring to the table. It's about partnerships, most important. And it's about coming together as partners to create and help improve the program. But I often like to tell districts and folks like yourself to know what you want and to understand your objectives and take time to set those objectives. You've got a great team here and a lot of folks who are well-intended and enjoy working in the facilities and working with the children on a daily basis like we all do. But understand your objectives overall for the program. Understand whether it's new programs, whether it's the financial piece we talk about, but don't make it fully financial dependent, because there's other important pieces also, like capital needs, whether it be kitchen equipment, whether it be changing environments for the students, whether it be many of the things that Art and Cass are going to talk about when we talk about Aramark's capabilities. And often it's about program change, quality, variety, menuing, and those types of things. Art talked about rumors. I like to call them common myths associated with public partnerships. When people talk about the O word, outsourcing, there's a lot of rumors that go around, and there's a lot of myths out there. And the first one that we always hear about is everybody's going to lose their jobs. Nobody's going to have benefits, all those types of things. Well, to the contrary. We don't have, and I often say this, a yellow school bus around the corner ready to bring in a new staff. Our intention is always to work with the folks in place to make them better at what they do, to offer resources and offer help, support to them to improve program and to become world class, which I know is something important to Strongsville. Also, we hear a lot about loss of control of the program with the district. Really not the case. You keep control. Quite candidly, all the funds from the program still go to the district's bank and to the district. We have to have prices approved by you. We have to have menus approved. All those types of things still stay in place. So control it stays as part of the administration and the board. And there's several others listed, but most important, you need to understand that there are a lot of myths out there, and it's important to communicate openly, as we are tonight, about the intentions of the board and the district. Also, there are challenges, and let's be honest. I think you understand that it is a challenge to make a move in this direction. And there's many of them that we talk about, employee anxiety and curiosity, I think, with everybody sitting there. And that's important, and it's important that we work with the team to make sure that those emotions stay intact. But service of food has become very complex. There are a lot of things that have happened from a national and a state perspective when it comes to guidelines and restrictions, and we have a lot of folks that help districts through those types of things. But the challenges are things that need to be addressed one by one as you develop your objectives, and certainly start to develop a plan for a request for proposal if you decide to go that direction, and for moving to, excuse me, a public-private partnership with your food service. So with that said, I'm going to ask Cass if she'd spend a few minutes, talk about the people piece. Certainly our most important asset in our programs, and a lot of the things that we do for the folks that are here, she will discuss. So if you would, Cass, please.
Good evening. Better put this a little lower.
Sorry.
That's okay. So to kind of reiterate a little bit of what Steve was talking about, some of the words you're going to hear over and over again are partnership, and it's a collaborative effort what we do when we work with a new client. We come in and try to assist. One of Aramark's core values is frontline first. And by frontline, that means the employees who are in the field, on the ground, essentially getting the job done. Without those employees, we would not be able to do our job. That's how Aramark is successful, by having a strong team in place wherever we are. And with that being said, you'll see that, again, it's a successful partnership. We solicit feedback. We work with the district on culinary programs, and we do a significant number of employee trainings and workshops. Another aspect you'll see is we have 4 different pillars of our job, our team, our growth, and our pride. And what that means is we work within these 4 quadrants to ensure that our job is done properly and on time, our team is engaged and is managing change effectively, our growth, that we continue to be a leader in the food services industry, and our pride is part of the recognition, employee recognition, and community. We are very involved in our community. We work in tandem with the district and the local community to ensure that we're providing a partnership and giving back. Another key item is employee training and development. Again, to that point, the food service industry is evolving every day. There are more and more parameters in place that are required. There are more guidelines that we're trying to adhere, and more importantly, the nutrition standards are in a positive direction, moving that we are serving healthy, fresh, quality food to the students on a daily basis. We're providing nutritional education to the students so they know how to make healthy choices. I have children myself, and before I give them something, the one always says, "Is this a healthy snack?" And I'm like, yes, it's a healthy snack. Sometimes, you have to, we're teaching them earlier and earlier that you have to focus on what's healthy and have them make the right choices when whether it's lunch or breakfast or whatever meal that we're providing. One key item that I'm going to point out is customer service. And we employ what's called the WEST model, which is welcome, engage, smile, and thank you. And everyone here has a food service experience that they have not received that, and you remember that. It sticks with you. But when you're engaged in a positive experience and a positive transaction with a food service or a customer, you take away something positive from that, and that's what we want our employees to do every day, whether it's with the students, whether it's with the teachers, or whether it's with the community at large. And the last thing that I'm going to touch on is the safety aspect. Aramark, this may be one of the biggest initiatives that we have employed in the past 10 years, and we grow this initiative every day. We have safety calls, we have safety conversations, we have daily safety meetings, and that's to ensure that we're providing safe food, a safe environment, both occupational and environmental, to both our clients and our employees. We want to ensure that every location that an employee walks into has all the safety qualifications in place, and that our students or our staff or the faculty at large feel comfortable eating the food, and that they don't have the risk of having any type of injury or illness from anything along those lines. So we train our people to maintain a safe and healthy workplace and service environment. That's a very big, it's a very important aspect of what Aramark does in addition to the food. I would say that they go hand in hand. So I'm going to turn it over to Art to close out the conversation. And again, if you do have any questions, feel free to ask at any time.
Yes. So I'm going to close and just talk for a few minutes about menu and food, because that really is what we do. And the challenge with food today in the K-12 environment, as I have no doubts that your food service team here understands, is the balance between appeal and health and wellness and cost. And that's a very, very challenging 3 lines to run together. So we could spend hours talking about this. We won't. Aramark, I think, provides great resources to support our teams and your teams in managing that balance and delivering meals that meet those 3 criteria. We work very closely with local vendors, local providers. We work diligently to make sure that all the products that we're serving meet the nutritional guidelines. And one of the things that we've found is that half of the battle sometimes is understanding those guidelines. So we have an OpEx department that's their job, is ensuring that we continue to grow menus and build menus that meet those requirements. We also know that today's consumer is much more sophisticated. By consumer, I mean your students are much more sophisticated than they were 10, 20, and more years ago when I was in school. Their expectations are much, much higher. We do extensive student focus groups, and as you can see, in 2014 we surveyed 103,000 students throughout the country at all grade levels. At the middle school and high school levels we exceeded that number this year, so we continue to draw insights from our students. From those insights, we're able to develop dining brands and stations and food concepts that meet the needs of the individual grades. And we know that students at the K-5 level have different expectations than they do at the middle level and that they do at the high school level. We also realize that the importance of nutrition today is more prevalent than it ever has been in the past. So we have extensive nutrition education programs, and they're not one size fits all. They're tailored to the different levels of your students. In addition to the nutrition education that varies by grade level, our brands also vary by grade level. K-5 students have different expectations and different color preferences, and different things resonate with them than they do at the other levels. So our brands that we may use in differing amounts in different districts are segmented by age group. We also have at the middle school and high school levels what we call station brands, and these are designed to appeal to what our students look for today, which is a much more retail feel to the cafeteria experience. They don't want a cafeteria line anymore. They're used to going to the mall, they're used to dealing with retail outlets, and again, much more sophisticated than they used to be. So these are just some of the station brands that we employ. They really focus on the key areas of student preference right now, which is the tortilleria, and the Chipotle style concept is obviously very popular. Pizza will never go away as a very popular item for students. The made-to-order delis. Sometimes it's not that the food is drastically different, sometimes it's how it's presented. The other thing that we know is our students are much more discriminating in terms of what they look for in environment. So these are just a few examples of when we do go in and partner with school districts, some of the changes, and these are actual pictures of before and after of school districts that we went in and partnered with. The final piece, I think, on the retail appeal and the merchandising is it's also all about how you present your food. So we do extensive training with our staffs on how food is merchandised, how it's presented, how it's labeled, because our students know that. They've grown up in a retail environment that is much, much different. We also know that our students use multiple channels for communication. They don't just want a paper menu anymore. They communicate in ways that are so different than they used to be, and we employ all those methods to communicate wellness, to communicate our menus, and to communicate with our students on their preferences. So it's a much, much more complex environment today, and as a 27-year resident of Strongsville, with 2 daughters who went through K-12 at Chapman Elementary and Albion and Strongsville High School. First of all, I want to thank you, current and previous boards and administration, for all you did to enrich and deliver great educational experiences for my students, or for my daughters. And at this point, we will open it up to questions on anything you'd like to ask. And thank you again for having us.
Thank you very much. It was a great presentation. We all certainly appreciate it. Does anybody have questions?
I have one.
Sure.
You talk about Kent, you talk about Lorraine. What was the premise? Why did they bring you in?
The premise, and I wasn't here 25 years ago, but I will tell you that my understanding is that the primary premise at Kent was financial, and they asked us to come in and partner with them to deliver a more financially predictable food service program. I believe that the premise at Lorraine was a combination of the finances and a desire to raise the level of their dining, quality and experience back then. And they are also two very different scenarios in terms of the employees and how we managed the staff when we started at Kent. We had all district employees. We continued to employ those district employees. And in Lorraine, it was a scenario where they came over to Aramark. So we've managed both scenarios in those schools very, very effectively.
But at Kent, you still have district employees who work for the district, and you're just helping manage them? Or managing the menu?
What happened at Kent asked us to come in and to retain all of their employees, and as those employees retired, they were replaced by Aramark employees. So today, 23 years later at Kent, I believe there's one district employee remaining. They continued to work out through their retirement, and they've been replaced by Aramark employees.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Micko? Art, if you could just share, a few slides ago in menu strategy, you talked about, the three foundational components of appeal, health, and wellness, and cost.
Yes.
So, this may be an unfair question, but can you share an example of using those three foundational components, insights from the student survey, and how that comes out as, you talked about dining brands, day parts, and promotions. Can you give a specific example of how you've combined those three foundational components to market a product that increased sales, increased appeal, and also met the health requirements that we need to meet?
Absolutely, and I hate to keep coming back to the Chipotle example, but it's such a great example of a concept that has very, very high appeal to the students, and it offers a wide variety of products that can and do meet nutritional requirements, so we can mix and match what products we're making. We can allow students to pick and build their own meals, which is a change in student dining preferences of late as well. So I think that's and the tortilleria concept is also a concept that meets cost constraints and enables us to use and optimize commodities, which are an important part of our mix as well.
Thank you.
Just financially have, for Lorraine and Kent, are you revenue neutral in those locations, or do you produce a profit?
In both those cases, we produce a profit. And have for at least the last 7 to 8 years.
And Steve, to be clear, that profit you return to the district?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And obviously, Aramark is a for-profit company, so there's a profit element built in for Aramark. But when we manage your programs, the profits are flowing through to you. Yep.
What's you may not have any recent examples, but I'm curious if you know what the participation rate did after Aramark took over. Do you know what percentage increases you had?
I apologize. I can't answer that question in those two cases. I can answer in the case of a more recent example down in the Cincinnati area where our participation did increase by a couple percent. Participation increases in well-run districts. Students' habits are quite often set. We can influence and we can move those.
Okay.
I know that our goal in every year is to increase participation in all of our districts, regardless of whether they've been Aramark accounts in the past or not.
How successful are you?
At increasing participation? Globally, we increase our participation as a line of business every year. There are obviously some puts and takes to that. And there are a lot of factors involved in participation, from enrollment to changes in demographics, et cetera.
Any other? Good. I'm just going to wrap it up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
What the board is challenged with, and the final question will be what are next steps for you?
Sure.
But you know, we continue to have our mantra is student achievement and financial prudence. And right now, we subsidize the food budget, and we've been doing that historically. So we're looking to get out of our blinders, because we haven't been successful so far. And if we can find some expertise with partners, at the same time being loyal to our employees, obviously that, in my mind, addresses both issues. It alleviates the general fund, and that means we can take that money and devote it to education. Cynical is not the right word, but you know, we're going to make the food taste better. We're going to make the food have better quality. We're going to spend less, and we're going to make more profit. That's a great trick, and I can't wait to see how it all works out. But we're willing to listen, and we're willing to move forward on that. What are the next steps for you at Aramark?
I think, and Steve can step in if he wants to, but I think what we would be happy to come in and spend a more in-depth session with doing some benchmarking with industry standards and Aramark standards, whether it's food cost cents per meal, labor productivity, direct expenses, participation percentages. We would be happy to come in and spend some time.
And if I may, and Art is right on point there, there's two recommendations that I'd certainly have. One is allow us to come in and assess your program. Take a look at the current program, how, you know, what the day-to-day looks like, the facilities, et cetera, and gather some information with your help on the metrics, the current metrics, and allow us to compare those to the Kents, the Lorraines, and to districts that we have across the state and across the region, and assess the overall and show you where some savings may be. The other recommendation I always have is, and of course we're just closing up the school year this year, but come take a look. Come see what we're doing, tour your facilities, see how things are going there, and then come see what we do and make a comparison. Always a great next step also. So I'd recommend those two things as your next two steps in the process, most definitely.
Well, thank you very much.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
I know Mr. Reible will make notes on that, and we'll follow up, and I'm sure George will be working on it also. So.
Yeah, and on that, I know that we could arrange visits to either of those districts in the greater Cleveland area as well. So,
I greatly appreciate all your time. Great food for thought. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
At this time, we do have reason for executive session, pending legal matters, discipline, management of personnel. Are there any other matters?
Investigation of complaints.
Investigation of complaints. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. Motion by Mr. Grozen, second by Mrs. Ludwig.
Mr. Mickle?
Yes.
Could I, before the camera comes off, could I?
Would you like Board of Education other?
Yes. Just
9AB, Board of Education other. Go right ahead.
Real quick, you guys may have seen the stickers that I brought in with me. This Saturday, starting at 11 o'clock, the Strongsville Rotary is having our 3rd annual rubber ducky race down the creek for charity, and we're also having what we call Kids Fest. Last year we had close to 3,000 children and adults come in. It's absolutely free. And the Rotarians work hard at a hot dog or hamburger, bag of chips, and a pop will only cost you $3. Face painting, pony rides for free, touch a truck, and I'm very proud to say that we are going to have a Strongsville school bus down there as part of our touch a truck. They'll have the big ladder truck down there. We've got a bunch of neat things from Nature Tracks, which is a Cleveland Metro Parks trailer that they bring in for educational purposes. But every child that comes in through our school buses will have a Strongsville City Schools sticker. I please encourage everybody to come down. It is a lot of fun, and I will be down there running around with my yellow shirt. So please stop by and say hello. But this Saturday, it's a charity event for the Cleveland Metro Parks through the Strongsville Rotary program. Thank you.
So you're saying you won't duck?
I won't duck, no. But I will be down there. I will not be in the creek this year herding the ducks down the creek. So let's hope for a little bit of rain, but not a lot.
Okay. Is it an unsubstantiated rumor that you'll be the duck? in the
No, I
duck
will not be the
costume?
duck.
Make sure
no.
to find out. And then I would be remiss, I guess we'll call it 9C. Today was the last day of school for our elementary and our middle school. I want to congratulate everyone on a great year. Unlike Sarar, where there must have been tears, at Maraski, it was a more traditional response, and my children are very happy to be starting their extremely short summer vacation. So I would
Well
hope.
worth it, though.
I would hope everyone has a safe and restful and relaxing summer vacation and is ready to come back and continue learning at our schools. So with that, we'll come back to our roll call for executive session. Ms. Herman?
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludwig?
Yes.
Mr. Grozen?
Yes.
We will enter executive session at 8:30, and we have no other business after executive session, so have a very nice evening, and go Cavs.